My name is Jason Witt, and I'm director of the La Crosse County Human Services Department. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the very talented human services workers that are here with us today from La Crosse County Human Services. Well, at the end of what has truly been a great day, we wanted to finish strong. We opened this morning with the marching band, and now we'll be closing with something equally as powerful: the inspirational words and passion of Tom Thibodeau. Tom is a distinguished professor at Viterbo University and director of its Servant Leadership Program. Tom's message and passion has inspired so many in our community, and he has been especially generous with his time and presence with our community's teachers and public servants. It is my true honor to introduce Tom Thibodeau.
Good afternoon. It's so good to be with all of you, knowing that I'm the only thing that stands between you and moon tunes. It is a real privilege for me to be with you here tonight, and one of the things I want to add is the real title that I've given myself. I'm an ambassador for goodness. I figured the other team's got enough players on it. And wherever I go, wherever I'm asked to speak, I just remind good people of how good you are. Those of you who are teaching social services, those of you who are working in public service, those of you who are citizens and parents, thank you for your goodness. There is no virtue in cynicism. Have you ever seen a hospital built by Cynics Anonymous? The only thing that changes anything in any community is when good people do good work together. Do you know of another way? And think about it for just a moment. How many of you have bought a raffle ticket this last year because somebody's child is sick, their house burned down, they had problems at home? How many of you bought a raffle ticket this last year? And just think about it for a moment. Was it only that family that you bought the ticket for that benefits? Or does the whole community benefit? Benefit comes from two Latin words, bene facere, means to do good together. And friends, many of you have been doing good together for 2 and 3 decades in this community, and we're the better for it. January 7th, 2015, I'm down in Wisconsin Dells speaking to 300 farmers. I'm being ready to be introduced at the Kalahari, and my pocket goes off. I got a smartphone. I don't know how to use it, but I got one. All of us in our 60s have smartphones. Why? We're hoping to get pictures of our grandkids, but we don't know how to use it. That's where I always go up to younger people. Can you help me with this app thing? So my pocket goes off, I pull it out, and my wife's talking to me. Priscilla, how'd you get in there? Tom. Megan, our second oldest daughter, was on her way to work in downtown Chicago. The water broke. She's in downtown Chicago having our first granddaughter, 6 weeks premature. My son-in-law is in the northern suburbs of Chicago. My wife's at home frantic. Here's our speaker, Tom Thibodeau. Goodbye, I gotta go. Put her back in my pocket. Well, I got up in front of the farmers, and you can imagine I was a little bit distressed. I was distracted, and I was kind of stumbling. And then I just stopped and I told them the truth. Isn't it interesting how people are willing to cut us some slack if we tell them the truth? Isn't it interesting if we allow ourselves to be publicly vulnerable that people will say, all right, I understand. Had I not told them the truth, they could have said, well, the guy's not prepared. He really doesn't want to speak to us. It's like this when you come in front of a group of children early in the morning, you've had a tough morning. If you don't tell the children what's taking place in your life, how do they interpret that? They must have done something wrong. But I've always found if you tell people the truth, things go better. So I did. I said my daughter was on her way to work in downtown Chicago this morning. The water broke. She's in downtown Chicago having her baby at a hospital that she wasn't anticipating being at. She's with strangers. My son-in-law is in the northern suburbs of Chicago. My daughter's by herself. My wife is at home, and she's just frantic, not knowing what to do to help her daughter. After I told them the truth, I got into the rhythm of my speech. I walked off the stage. At the bottom of the stage was a guy about 5'10" with shoulder-like axe handles. Got a blue shirt on. Larry, come here, he says. And I walk up, and he hugs me. This is unusual behavior for farmers. And then he won't let me go. He holds onto my waist. Look at this. Look at this, he says. He pulls out his wallet. Here's my granddaughter, 5 years of age, full of life. She was born 6 weeks premature. Your granddaughter's going to be just fine. I'm praying for you and your family. Did I need it at that moment? Hello, brother. Hello, fellow human being. Got your back. And when those children of other people's children come into your classroom, don't you do that? Hello, fellow human being. Hello, brother. Hello, sister. We got your back. We're going to take care of your children. We're going to take care of each other. This is the power of goodness. The power of goodness. Now, to show you how it all comes around, 6 months later, I'm in Dubuque speaking to another group of farmers. Right now, I'm on the farm circuit. They consider me to be a moving speaker. All right, it's late in the afternoon. And I'm telling the story about Larry, and they say, he's here. In the middle of 300 farmers, Larry's waving at me. They say, are you going to hug him? I said, you bet I am. And we saw each other, and we hugged each other. We've seen each other now at dairy breakfast. We've seen each other at professional dairy producers conventions. Every time we see each other, we hug, we become friends. Last time in Madison, I saw him in March. Come here, brother, and he gives me a great big hug. And he says, now it's your turn. My family's suffering from health problems. We need your prayers. Isn't it amazing? We reap what we sow. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. If we sow goodness, compassion, understanding, we receive that back. If we're mean, bitter, cynical, that comes back to us as well. See, there's a power in goodness that we have to recapture, a common good, if you will. And I know all day long you've been spending time talking about children and the problems that children face. But those of you who are educators, let me remind you of this. Children graduate. It's the adults who stay. It's the relationship of the adults who create the environment in which children live and learn and grow and thrive. It's the way in which we treat each other that gives our children a sense of hope and security, and how terribly important that is. My first job when I came to La Crosse was in 1976. I worked at St. Michael's Home for Children, a residential treatment center. I worked with emotionally disturbed adolescent girls. That's why I'm not afraid of anybody. And then I became the director of child care. And during that time, we'd hire people, and this is what we understood. The stronger the relationships of the staff, the more that the staff cared about each other, the more that the staff supported each other, the more difficult behaviors that we could tolerate. The more the staff was engaged with each other in healthy relationships, the more disturbed children we could take and help to heal. Yesterday I was speaking in Stevens Point, and I made that point. Afterwards, I'm standing in front, and a woman came up to me in tears, and she hugged me. And she said, Tom, do you remember me? And I looked at her, and I saw it in her eyes. Yes, Mary, I do. She was a girl at St. Michael's 40 years ago. And today, she's a teacher's aide in the special ed room in Stevens Point. It wasn't anything that any one person did. It was the community of people who cared for this person. And wherever I go, you have to build up that which is good. We live in a culture of deficiency, but look for the good. Hurricane Harvey, it's terrible, the destruction. And at the same time, there's a Cajun Navy. Guys with pickup trucks and boats coming out of Louisiana, navigating through South Texas, finding people that they'll never meet again, saving their lives. People donating, young moms setting up websites for diapers for other people's children. People from the Red Cross, the National Guard. Ordinary citizens, members of our family saying, hello, brother, hello, sister, got your back. Now, how do you know you're in the presence of goodness? 3 things. 1, there's joy there. That's why I always tell a couple of corny jokes. Want to see if people want to laugh. You laugh easily. I've been listening in your conversations. You like each other. You're asking yourself, what am I going to do as a salad shaker? I mean, this is an amazing group of people. This is how people laugh when they're stressed out. I call that the constipation of joy. I'm sorry, just a minute. I'm sorry. I thought I would have gotten over this by now. 2.5 years ago, the Seattle game. We're a minute from the Super Bowl. A minute. Catch the ball and fall down. Catch the ball and fall down. For the next month in the state of Wisconsin, every time you saw somebody, how you doing? It's like that every day in Minnesota. All right. But what you find is this, where people are experiencing goodness, there's joy. Be the kind of people that kids want to hang around. So many kids suffer so much pain and suffering, so much sadness, so to be in the presence of people who laugh, do you realize how important that is? Secondly, how do you know that you're in the presence of goodness? There's peace. I don't know about you, but I don't sense much anxiety in this room today. People have come together for a common good, not as adversaries, but as friends and members of a community. And third, how do you know in your presence of goodness? You want to stay. You want to linger. Some of you have been in education in La Crosse for over 30 years, some maybe as long as 40 years. You pitched your tent and you stayed, and our lives are better because of it. Well, what's the opposite of not being in the presence of goodness? Sadness, anger, despair. Charlottesville. What happens when you're not in the presence of goodness? All kinds of anxiety and confusion. And finally, if you're not in the presence of goodness, you want to get out of there. You want to escape. You don't want to stay. So how important is it for us to build a community where goodness is at the heart of who we are and what we do every day? And yet it's becoming increasingly difficult because of the pressures that adults feel. We always talk about kids as being at risk. How many adults do you work with who are at risk? The definition of being at risk is the smaller your source of support, the more at risk you are. And I think about that. How many people in our community of all ages are at risk who are hungry for a healthy community? Think of community Thanksgiving that takes place in this room. 4,000 of our brothers and sisters from the Crosse community come so they do not have to have Thanksgiving dinner alone. All of us hunger for the goodness of community. Thomas Friedman, in his newest book that I'm recommending to every group that I speak to, is Thank You for Being Late. It's a great title. Friedman's a journalist for the New York Times, and for the last 10 or 15 years, he interviews people during breakfast. And what he's found is that people are showing up for breakfast 10 and 15 minutes late. And they come in just like you and I when we come late to a meeting. You're all frantic. Oh, I'm sorry, the traffic this morning, the kids, I wasn't able to get out of the house. And he just smiles and says, thank you for being late. And people look at him and says, thank you for being late. You just gave me 15 minutes for reflection I wasn't going to have today. And he says, if I'm feeling this way, I wonder if other people are. And of course they are. Many of us in this room would not have any time for reflection if we didn't have a door in our bathroom. I mean, a door, a lock. At one point, I thought that people didn't carpool because they didn't want to ride with anybody else, and now I know that our car is one of our last places where we have time alone. Thomas Friedman understands this, and he begins to research it, and this is what he finds out. What's taken place in the last 10 or 15 years? 3 things that have taken place that are changing so fast that neither individuals nor institutions can keep up. First, technology. Technology is not changing, doubling every 24 months, it's doubling every 18 months. Do you know that cows wear Fitbits? No kidding. And when a cow increases its number of steps, it means it's ovulating and ready for insemination. There's an image to close the day with. Every cow has a computer chip. When it walks up to get fed, the calf is fed by the machine that reads its ear. When I was speaking to 1,800 farmers in Madison at the Alliant Energy Center, we had our picture taken by a drone. Technology, it's not if you're going to buy a driverless car, it's when you're going to buy a driverless car. You go buy an electronic billboard, it scans your license plate. It stores the data, and so when you drive by at 4 o'clock, it knows the products that you're most interested in. Technology, computers are now programming other computers. 2 days ago, I was lost in a cornfield in north Wisconsin. Alexa, help me find Elk Mound High School. It was dark, it was foggy. Turn left in 20 feet, you'll arrive at your destiny. Who would have thought? So the rapid pace of technology, we can't keep up. Second, globalization. All of you saw pictures on the La Crosse Tribune this summer of Mexican families packing up, going back to Mexico, and dairy farmers wondering who's going to milk our cows. Globalization. Go to Gunderson, go to Mayo, and look at the faces of the providers. Are they only from Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin? People from all over the world who come to heal us. Look at our universities that are beginning right now, UW La Crosse and Viterbo and Western. And we have students from all over the world who come to La Crosse for their education. Our farmers, last year, what did our great farmers in the state of Wisconsin do? Produce more corn and soybeans than they ever done before. What was the reward? Lower prices. And this year they're going to have good crops again, and know what's going to happen? Lower prices. The Argentinian peso is stronger, so that Argentinians are growing more corn. So you don't even have control over your own markets. Think of the economic globalization that our students are going to have to deal with in the 21st century. How things are changing. Who would have thought that you and I would be paying attention to the French election? And finally, at 67 years of age, I never thought again that I'd have to worry about nuclear weapons. Now think about it for a moment. Aren't our children reading the same news? Aren't they aware of the same levels of information that you and I are? Maybe even more so, because it comes to them unfiltered. And the third thing that's taking place is climate change. And Friedman says this is not a political debate. Mother Nature pays attention to three laws: biology, physics, and chemistry. And so with that kind of change taking place, how do we rebuild the common good? And he says this: all of us need to learn to live in the eye of the hurricane. What's in the eye of the hurricane? Calm, still, quiet, he writes. The eye of the hurricane moves along with the storm. It draws energy from it while creating a sanctuary of stability inside it. It is both dynamic and stable, and so must we be. We can't escape these accelerations. We have to dive into them, take advantage of their energy and flows where possible, move with them, use them to learn faster, design smarter, collaborate deeper, all so we can build our own eyes of hurricanes to anchor and propel ourselves and our families confidently forward. The closest analog for the eye of the hurricane I can think of is a healthy community. When people feel embedded in a community, they feel protected, respected, and connected. And that feeling is more important than ever, because when people feel protected, respected, and connected in a healthy community, it generates enormous trust. And when there's more trust in a room, people grow. When people trust each other, they are much more adaptable and open to all forms of pluralism. When people trust each other, they think long term. When there's trust in the room, people are more inclined to collaborate and to experiment, to open themselves up to others, to new ideas and novel approaches, and to extending the golden rule. They also don't waste energy investigating every mistake. They feel free to fail and try again and fail again and try again. Collaboration moves at the speed of trust. The good work that's been started here by La Crosse District and invited the whole community of Rebuilding for Learning involves all of us. And it's an endeavor of getting to know each other so that we can trust each other and believe in each other and work in each other for the common good, which is our children. Good work, hard work, noble work. Thank you for doing it so well. Now here's one of the interesting things in a longitudinal study, evidence-based research coming out of Canada, that if people do good work and it's unrecognized, it's more painful than to be bullied or harassed. So as we think about it, moving into a new school year, how about being a little bit more appreciative of each other and the work that each of us does? Understanding that everybody's work in a community is significant and important. We have our officers who protect and serve us each and every day, sitting right in the middle of the room. And last year in November, I was filling up my car at Quick Trip, and a county sheriff deputy was filling up behind me. And I walked up to the young man. He's rather skittish. I said, "Excuse me, sir. It says on the side of your car to protect and serve. Thank you for doing it so well." I said, "Did you realize that 95% of the people in the state of Wisconsin are very happy with their police service? Thank you." I said, "I imagine you hear from the other 5%. He said, "Oh, yes, sir, and they're very loud." It was 2 days after those two officers were assassinated in West Des Moines. And you begin to realize the power of appreciation, of recognizing the good work of each other, builds each other up rather than tearing each other down. With one word, I can honor somebody or I can humiliate them. With one word, I can give people a distinction or I can destroy them. And every audience that I talk to, how many of you, raise your hand, want to be in middle school again? See, back in the day, you went home and the bullying stopped. My sister, who is a guidance counselor, has parents coming in crying because of how their kids are being treated on social media. The power of our language. And so more than ever before, children rely on our recognition of them and lifting them up. But we will not do that for each other and for their children unless we do it for each other. How is it you can determine effective learning in a building? The level of conversation in the employees' lounge. The way in which we talk to and with each other. This is the research of Dr. William Glasser. Do you realize if there's conflict at the nurse's station, it impedes your rate of healing by 15%? So it's the power of our language, the way in which we talk to and with each other, that builds up our community. And each of us has that power. Each of us can speak upon the common good. You need 5 comments of appreciation to every one of criticism to remain healthy. Do you get your 5 every day? Do you give your 5 every day? Look for the good stuff. For whatever you pay attention to, you get more of. And finally, it's your presence. It's your presence. Today, you showed up. I recognize that while you're here right now, nobody else is answering your email. Nobody else is preparing your classroom. Nobody else is doing your work. I know that by being here today, many of you have just extended your workday well into the evening. Many of you got up this morning at 5 o'clock, did 3 hours of work, and then came here and will go home afterwards and start taking care of children and extended family and neighbors. Your good work is so terribly important, and yet what did you do? You show up. You're present to the lives of each other each and every day. You're present to the people of this community and to their children and needs. The greatest gift we give to another human being is 100% of our attention. You know and I know that there will be children after the first day of class who will linger by your desk just because they hunger for the goodness of an adult who recognizes them for who they are. But our friends and colleagues hunger for the same presence. Let me speak to the youngest educators, those who have been here in the last 5 years. I've been teaching for 35 years, and it is a distinct privilege to be a teacher. I am so grateful that I've been given this opportunity. But I live with one regret. As I've committed myself to teaching and other people's children and their families, sometimes I neglected my own. Sometimes my wife, who was a teacher for 28 years, all she got was leftovers. Sometimes the kids didn't see their dad sitting in the stands. So not only are our words and presence in a community important for the people that we serve and the people that we work with, they're so vital to the people that we love and the people that we live with. Good work, hard work, noble work, your work, and you do it so well. Finally, my last story. At one point I used to apologize if I repeated myself, but then I thought, well, if you go to listen to Jimmy Buffett, you want to hear him play Margaritaville at least once. Not that I'm Jimmy Buffett, but this is one of my greatest hits. This is my life's work. If any of you invite me to your schools or to your offices or to your meetings, I'll be happy to show up. If I got time, I want to be there to lift people up. It's my turn. See, this country has been so good to me. I have benefited from the best educational system in the world. My family's been taken care of by the best health system in the world. I have had the privilege of living in a democracy. I've had the privilege of being a part of the Crosse community. Now it's my turn. Our children and our grandchildren deserve the same opportunities. And so that's my life's work, is joining together for the common good. So whenever I get invited, I say yes. So I got invited to Brooke Army Medical Center 2 years ago in San Antonio. Brooke Army Medical Center is where wounded warriors from Iraq and Afghanistan go for their prosthetics. As a raise of hands, how many of you have sent family members to Iraq or Afghanistan in the last 30 years? Just raise your hand. Look around the room. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because when we send a soldier, we send a family. When we talk about the deployment of 14,000 troops, we're talking about the deployment of 14,000 families. So I went to Brooke Army Medical Center to speak to their staff, and they said, we'll pick you up at the airport. So I got all dressed up, had my shirt and tie on, had my sport coat on, had my overcoat over my arm. It was March, had my material bag by my feet. I looked rather odd standing there in the airport. It was 95 degrees. Everybody else was in shorts and T-shirts. Finally, a guy in flip-flops walks up and said, you just get off the plane from Minneapolis? I said, yes. He says, are you Tom? I said, yes. He says, looks like it, follow me. So I followed him. But as I was standing there, I was watching people in the airport. And I saw a young man, 21, 22 tops, haircut short, wearing a gray T-shirt with Army emblazoned across his chest, wearing a blue pair of shorts. And because he's in shorts and T-shirt, I could see his right arm was missing. His left leg was a metal prosthetic. His left hand was on the handle of a stroller, carrying his infant son. And with great difficulty, he was trying to push the stroller through the airport and was becoming frustrated because it wouldn't go where he wanted it to go. And then a young woman, 21, 22 tops, who I imagine just a year previously had said, in sickness and health and good times and bad, till death do us part I do, walks up to her husband, smiles, puts her left arm around his waist, puts her right hand on the handle of the stroller, and with love she says, let's push together. It's just too hard pushing alone. Let's push together. It's just too hard pushing alone. I don't have simple answers to complex problems. The things that you talked about today are very serious when we're talking about childhood trauma and mental illness and poverty and racism, all those things that divide us. I don't have simple solutions. It's going to take a lot of hard work. But I do know this, that if we speak with each other with respect, if we recapture civility, if we look for the good in one another and build up trust, If we show up and continue to show up and rebuilding for learning in our classrooms, in our neighborhoods, in our parks, in our homes, if we put our arms around each other and smile and with love said, let's push together, it's just to our pushing alone. We got a shot, a very good shot, because this is work that has begun in this community and will continue to begin because of you. Good work, hard work, noble work, your work. Thank you. Thank you for doing it so well. Now finally, please join me. Please help me. Repeat after me. Please help me to believe the truth about myself, no matter how beautiful it is. And one time, the course of the day, when you're looking into the bathroom mirror, you smile at yourself and you go, sweet. Thank you very much.